I am so excited to welcome today a very special guest. I'm welcoming Meredith Harvey. She's an executive coach and facilitator on the Plum Leadership Group team. She has nearly 2 decades of corporate experience, including 15 years at Google. Meredith is known for her strong emotional intelligence and her ability to help leaders unlock their full potential. Meredith creates a safe space for growth and transformation across any industry. And I am so thrilled to welcome Meredith. Welcome, Meredith, to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you, Lindsay. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so excited to talk to you today. This is a topic that I am passionate about. I know you are passionate about. And I wanted to just have a quick memory of when we met. So you and I met in person in San Francisco. We were attending the Coactive Institute training, and I just have this vivid memory of you and it just exemplifies your strong emotional intelligence. We were a group that was like random people all put together, and you shared a story that was so personal, and it just like totally allowed the group to connect. And I just wanted to really thank you for that, because now I have this beautiful relationship, work relationship, friendship with you. And I think it all started from your courage and your emotional intelligence that you brought to the group. So
Oh, thank
thank you.
you. Yeah, I'm having warm and fuzzy flashbacks now to
Yeah,
that weekend. So lovely. Yeah.
even though it was cold and rainy the whole entire time.
Yeah. In a windowless conference room.
Yes, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, relationships and friendships were forged. So yeah,
Magic was made.
totally.
Yeah.
So let's get right into it. So confidence, imposter syndrome, and I want to just start by level setting. So can you explain to me and our listeners what imposter syndrome is, and how it manifests in the workplace?
Yeah. So imposter syndrome is feeling like you're carrying around a little dirty secret. And the secret is that you're a fraud and that you don't know what you're doing and you're not qualified to be in the room. And you're kind of just hoping that no one else is going to discover that secret. It's this voice that doubts your abilities, even though you have experience that proves otherwise. And so it's not based in fact. And oftentimes the voice presents itself so loudly and so presently that it feels like it's the truth. Um, but I think for women, it shows up even more in industries or in rooms and companies where those rooms typically are dominated by male. And women feel like they have more to prove and that the stakes are even higher.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I know I felt it. I used to work in the financial services at one point in a sales role, and it was very heavily dominated by men. And I certainly felt that, feeling like a fraud or feeling like you don't belong, even though that's not the reality, right?
Yeah.
Even though that's not the truth. So I know
Yeah.
I felt it. Yeah.
I mean, I've heard statistics thrown around, but I've heard something like, I mean, almost 100% of people feel imposter syndrome at some
Yeah.
point, and most people, I even think like, people talk about overcoming imposter syndrome, but
Hmm.
there's really not overcoming as much as it is like learning how to deal and like work through it. But because it's such yeah, it's just something I think most people experience. Like if you're human, you've experienced it.
Totally. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And for some reason, women tend to experience it at a little higher rate, or at least they report it, right,
Hmm.
at a little higher rate than men do. But it affects women, men, doesn't matter what industry, what sector, what geography you're in, like it impacts, like you said, if you're human, you've probably felt it.
Yeah.
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 And so often self-sabotaging behavior accompanies imposter syndrome. Why is that? And how does it manifest?
Yeah. Well, you self-sabotage because you end up avoiding challenges and
Mm,
therefore growth, at the fear of being exposed. So you stay in your comfort zone, because of the imposter syndrome. You try to stay and protect yourself in this safe space.
mm,
But that doesn't allow for growth and transformation. A metaphor that I use for this is imagine that you're driving on a freeway
mhm,
and you're on open roads and there's no other cars on the road. You're free to go at whatever speed you want. If you're feeling confident, then you might be in cruise control and
Mm,
you're just smooth sailing. But when imposter syndrome creeps in, you start to pump the brakes.
mm,
And even though there's no roadblock in front of you, there's no slowdowns happening, you're just preventing, you're preventatively slowing yourself down.
mm,
And this is self-sabotaging. It's not taking the leadership opportunity because you're worried that you might fail.
mm,
It's not speaking up to share your ideas in meetings because you're worried about what people might think of them. In both of those cases, you're missing out on potential growth opportunities, and others are missing out on your insights and experience.
mm.
Um, yeah,
Yeah, I love that analogy of the highway. And it's almost like, you're on your way to a job opportunity or you're on your way to a job interview, but that lack of confidence is causing you to slow down and veer and you don't get there.
yeah,
And so, because of that totally perceived, totally made up roadblocks, you end up missing out on opportunities, missing out on potential for growth. So, it can be really like self fulfilling and self sabotaging.
yeah, and it kind of
Yeah.
keeps you in that, and it keeps you in a box. I kind of think of it as like, um, it's very related with comfort zone, which I kind of mentioned earlier.
Mm,
But your comfort zone is this safe place that feels good to be in for a little while. But if you hang out there too long, you're not growing. And there's there's this like range outside of comfort zone, which is your stretch zone. And that's the zone where growth and transformation happen.
mm,
And a lot of people stay in that comfort zone because they're worried about the failure and therefore they're not allowing themselves the growth. I think
right.
imposter syndrome is very much related to that.
Yeah. Yeah. And have you ever, Meredith, experienced any of this? Is this why? Yeah.
Oh my gosh. This topic is I'm so passionate about it, because I've felt it deeply. Man, I've felt it so many times. I worked at Google, as you mentioned, for 15 years. And I felt it as soon as as soon as I got in the doors at Google. When I started back in 2010, at that point, a lot of the people that were there were coming from Ivy Leagues. They'd had fancy
Mm,
internships. They really prided the people that they hired. They prided themselves on bringing in people who had really interesting accolades. And
mm,
I didn't really have any of that.
mm,
I really felt like I slipped through the cracks. I went to a
mm,
big state school. I didn't have any fancy internships on my resume. I really wasn't totally sure why I got in.
mm,
And, for a while it was okay because I just really focused on doing great work. And that was kind of the way that I got through it. I just focused on the work. And that worked at the more junior levels, because the work could speak for itself, or I would have a good manager who would help elevate
mm,
me. But then at some point, I became more senior, and it became more critical for my role that I spoke up for my work and that I brought
mm,
visibility not only to my work but to my team and my team's work. And I wouldn't not like I didn't totally avoid the situation, but I didn't embrace
mm,
giving bringing visibility. I didn't embrace those opportunities to, go pitch what our work to the CMO or get on
mm,
stage and share the work. And I think what was holding me back was this fear of not looking smart, or
mm,
saying the wrong thing. And I felt much more comfortable in one-on-one settings, and so I would kind of be a whisper into a VP's ear that I
mm,
had a good relationship with, and that was my way of getting through it.
mm,
Um, and that worked out fine, but it definitely held me back, and I think, even to some extent, probably held my team back. Um, and I actually didn't really realize how limiting it was until I left Google to become a coach.
mm.
Really realized
Yes.
how strong mindset is. Um, but yeah, it's something that I continue to grapple with, and I think have found tools for myself as well as for
Mm,
my clients that have certainly helped overcome it or have helped me work through it.
yeah. So you are a coach, you are a phenomenal coach. And because this is a topic that you're so passionate and obviously have experience with, um, it's twofold, right? What are the tips and tricks you use for yourself, and what do you do with your clients? Like, what strategies do you work on with your clients when they're coming to you with imposter syndrome?
Yeah. Well, I will say, confidence in general, which I think imposter syndrome and confidence are two sides of the same coin, is the number one topic, an area of focus for most of my clients. And so it definitely is a very prevalent, topic. I would give my clients the same tools and strategies that I use on myself. And there are kind of two that I really love. One is, name it to tame it. And so that's really this idea of bringing awareness around it and just
Mhm.
calling it out. By bringing awareness to it, you're already starting to reduce its power. So that's
Mhm.
the name it to tame it. And to take that even a step further, you can, notice the voice like, oh, I'm feeling some fear right now that I might
Mhm.
not come across as smart as I want to if I speak up. You kind of extract that voice from you and it creates some self-distance. And
Mhm.
then you're able to really inspect it and explore it like, oh, what is that voice trying to tell me?
Mhm.
What is it trying to protect me from? How is it helping me? How is it holding me back?
Mhm.
And just starting to like understand it better starts to help already make it the smaller thing that you can start to see as not a part of you. It's
Mhm.
this thing that you can look at from a distance. In
And I
coaching,
love the way you're like, even it's like it's not you. It's like
yeah,
this is external piece. I know for those of you who are listening and not watching us on video, it's like, the body language of it's not part of you. It's
yeah,
just this thing.
yeah. And
Yeah.
actually, so in coaching, we call them saboteurs, because they sabotage. And I learned through my coaching work that I have a saboteur, and um, I named him Rick. I got personified him to make him make him feel like he was separate from me.
Mm.
I named him Rick, and he was um, this. Uh, I don't know, like, senior manager in a business suit who just kind of comes in and judges everything
Mm.
that I do and like looks at me as like I'm a young girl out of college who like doesn't have any experience.
Mm.
And he tells me that, I don't have anything worth speaking up
Mm.
about, that I should just stay quiet. And being able to recognize that and even just pull them apart, like or pull them away from me made me realize how silly it sounded.
Yeah.
Um, and so I actually did this exercise, which sounds like kind of silly, but it gave me a laugh and I think really helped, which was I sent Rick on an early retirement. After exploring him, I was like, I think, at some point he had some purpose for me. And I thought about that,
Yeah.
like, what purpose does he have? I think maybe earlier on, I was still learning and maybe, was still digesting or absorbing. But at this point, he had outgrown his purpose with
He had
me.
overstayed his welcome.
He had overstayed his
Yes.
welcome. And so I sent him off on an early retirement and we had a little retirement party for him. I remember my husband and I made Mai Tais because we were in Hawaii at the time when I realized that this
Oh.
existed. And
Yep.
so we made some Mai Tais and we cheers to him. And then we just sent him off and we said, you're going to get to stay here in Hawaii.
Yep.
And, Rick still comes back to visit from time to
Yeah.
time, but
Does he
now,
want to consult sometimes post
yeah.
retirement?
Yeah, I think, he misses me sometimes and feels like he's not being productive over there in
Mm.
retirement land. But he comes back, and now I feel like because I've personified him so much, it's just so much easier to recognize him,
Mm.
reduce his power, and then channel my confidence and move through with that.
Oh, I love that so much. So name it to tame it. And
Yes,
then you literally are giving it a name. You're giving it it's not part of you. It is a separate, like, I love that um, embodiment and that, like,
yeah,
visualizing. Like, I can visualize Rick. I'm feeling like he's the guy from Office Space and he was there when you
yes,
joined Google. And then you were like, thanks, Rick, for hiring me, but you're out.
yes.
So, yeah, I think that's such an amazing framework and tool. I'm going to use that.
And then the second thing is, I really love this one, and I use this for
Mm.
confidence too. Is active listening combined with curiosity.
Mm,
If you are in a moment where you're feeling imposter syndrome and you redirect that energy into the person sitting across from you or someone else in the room that you can just listen so intently to and get really curious about,
mm,
you are naturally shifting the focus from yourself to somebody else.
mm,
And so it doesn't allow room in your mind for the imposter syndrome.
mm.
And it has this really beautiful side effect of making the other person in the room feel really connected to you
Yeah.
and deepening the conversation. And so, and which also makes you look more confident. And it makes
Mm,
the other person feel like they like you more because you're interested in what they're saying. It's all these amazing benefits to it. And I think it's just like such a quick way to get out of your own mind.
mm. I love that. That's such a, you're right. It's such like a beautiful tool that has more than one benefit. So what advice would you have, Meredith, to all of our, I mean, we've talked about it. Everybody's gone through it, male, female, doesn't matter what industry. What advice do you have for our listeners, if they're struggling with imposter syndrome and especially the self-sabotaging piece?
hmm Well, I would say, first of all, you're not alone. Everyone experiences it. As I mentioned, confidence is the number one topic that I deal with clients.
Mm,
It's something all humans are working on. Two, I would say, remember no one has the exact same experiences and insights that you do.
mm,
You are incredibly valuable and you have earned your seat at the table and you belong. And it doesn't help to compare to other people because you don't have their exact experience and they don't have yours.
mm,
So I think just remembering that you do have a really powerful perspective to bring, and that you've earned your right at the table,
mm.
is really powerful. And then I think the third thing is if you get imposter syndrome about chartering new territory or doing something you've never done before, just remember that no one is ever ready before they do something for the first time. All the practice in the world never gets you ready for the game,
Mm.
but you do it anyway. And that's the only way to learn is by doing. And so if you let imposter syndrome hold you back, then you're letting it control you from growth and from transformation. So just just ready or not, here I come. Just like
Yep,
a kid playing hide and seek, just do it.
yep. And each time it will get better. Each
Yes.
time it will get easier, right? It's like any skill, any
Yeah.
skill. The first time you do it, it hurts, it's
Yeah.
tough, but the second time it becomes a little easier. So it's just like any other skill,
hmm
that once you become more comfortable at it, it becomes easier.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, what about for leaders? If you're a leader within an organization and you recognize that your team, someone on your team, a colleague, a coworker, like is struggling with imposter syndrome, what can you do to try to create a workplace culture that, um, yeah, is supportive of that?
Mhm. I think celebrating everyone's strengths and
Mm,
perspectives and differences, and reminding people, everyone in the room, that different perspectives are valued. I think a lot of times, especially like I think about, being maybe the only woman in a room, or someone that feels like they don't belong, it's very easy just to keep your voice quiet and to freeze and not speak up. And and those are the voices we need to hear from the most.
mm,
And so I think leaders allowing that space for that to happen is really important. This is somewhat related, but it reminds me of a story that I think really helped me realize that different perspectives are not only powerful, but it doesn't mean that one person's right or wrong. Um, when I was at Google, early on in my career, I remember so I was a pretty junior marketer at this point, and I remember sitting in a room with two VPs, um, both really powerful people at Google, really smart, had earned their right in the positions that they were in, and I admired both of them a lot. And I watched the two of them disagree on something, and something clicked for me in that moment that was like, oh, you can be really smart and not agree with somebody else who's really smart, which made me think, oh, I can have a different opinion and that doesn't make me dumb or wrong or not smart. And I think that was like an unlock for me of just like the power of, having different voices and perspectives and being okay speaking up.
That's so true. I had something very similar. I had an amazing leader at an organization I worked with not long ago, and he would always say, "I want dissenting views. Like I want you to say stuff that you think I'm going to disagree with." And so
Oh,
we created this culture of dissenting views that was really like it was said before every meeting, like tell me what's going wrong, push back, like make me struggle, and sometimes I'll push back on you, and that's great. Like that's how growth, that's how transformation, and that creating that culture, yeah, creates is makes it okay for people to be wrong, to
yeah,
make mistakes, to yeah, it just creates a culture that like you're not afraid of sharing,
yeah.
that
And
I really
and
appreciate.
more innovation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's great advice for a leader.
Yeah. Well, Meredith, now we're going to move on to one of my favorite parts. It's called the lightning round, and I'm going to ask you some leadership questions. And I know it's lightning; you can spend as much time on them as you want. But I'm really interested to know, what inspires you with leadership. So, what's a book or a resource on leadership that's a personal fave of yours?
Hmm. Right now, I'm loving this podcast on Spotify by Harvard Business Review called Coaching Real Leaders.
Mm,
Um, it's hosted by this leadership coach, Muriel Wilkins, and she takes you into real life leadership coaching sessions with high performers who have hit a roadblock.
mm,
And it's really cool for me because, you hear about all these really high performing leaders and you're like, what could they possibly struggle with? They seem
yeah.
to have got it all figured out. So when you hear their conversations and their sessions, it's like, oh, they're real people. And they have, very similar problems. Like we
Mm,
all have problems around how we think and how we get in our own way.
mm.
And so I love that podcast for just bringing the realness to it.
I'm going to put that on my listen list.
Yeah, it's a must listen.
And who's a leader that you admire and why?
So there's this CMO. Her name is Dara Treseder. And I found out about her because she came in, did a fireside chat at Google back when I was there. And at the time, she was CMO of Peloton. And her energy, her personality,
Mm,
she's so real. It was very refreshing just how
mm,
real she was. I don't even want to use the word authentic because authentic sounds too buzzy of a word
yeah.
for what I'm trying to say. There was no generic corporate vibe to her.
Mm,
The way she spoke, the story she told, her laugh, she had this really great laugh. It just made you want to I felt like I was sitting across from her having a glass of wine on my living room sofa. It just made her very relatable. But she's done so many amazing things. She was recently named a CNBC Changemaker. She's been on Forbes world's most influential CMO list for the last 4 or 5 years.
mm.
And yeah, I think she's really fun to follow.
Oh, well, it sounds also a lot like you, right?
Oh,
You're so real and
I will take that compliment.
yeah, yeah. So I can see how the similarity there for sure.
Oh, thank you.
So speaking of realness, we all know we need to take care of ourselves, especially as a coach. I find that I need to be my best version of myself as a coach to coach in an effective way. So what do you do for self-care, Meredith? How do you take care of yourself outside of work?
Yeah, yeah. It's funny as a coach, it's like you have to be able to walk the walk,
Mm,
and do the things that we preach to our clients. This is so basic, but getting outside, fresh air.
mm,
What like yesterday was the first nice day in California in a little while, or at least in Northern California, and I sat outside for lunch. And it's funny, I was listening to, I think the Coaching Real Leaders podcast, and I was sitting outside and birds were buzzing. I got so relaxed that I fell asleep.
yeah.
I didn't even mean to. And I woke up because my phone rang. I was like, oh my gosh. But yeah, getting outside, going on walks, hikes,
Mm,
calling my mom. But just being outside is I need to do it every day. And ideally before my work meetings start, because
Yeah.
once I'm sitting down at my computer, I can easily get
The day goes away.
the
Yeah.
day. Yeah, exactly. Whereas, and it's really incredible how if you just go outside for 10 or 15 minutes, I think Mel Robbins talks about
Mm,
this, the Let Them Theory podcaster, but that just can set the tone. It can set your mindset. It can
mm.
clarify things for you. It's got an outsized impact for the minimal effort. So yes, getting outside.
Yes, that's one of my faves too. My husband and I try to take a walk every morning with the dog.
Mm,
And that actually ties into my last question, and it's something I love: leadership habits.
mm,
So, what's a leadership habit that you have that's helped you become, or what's a habit that you have that's helped you become a better leader?
mm. Well, this is tied to the advice I have around imposter syndrome, but it's
Mm,
being curious and listening. I think more people could benefit from listening more. And yeah, I think like it's such a gift to give somebody that
mm,
the gift of listening, because we don't really get that. It's a lot of when I'm talking, you're already thinking about the thing you want to say next, and vice versa.
mm,
And it's not very often that you just get someone who's got your undivided attention and wants to just get even more curious and peel back
mm,
the layers. And just think being able to do that, you can get a lot deeper and get, more into the root of something and what's going on.
mm,
And I've heard, quotes like the best leaders don't always have the right answers, but they ask the right questions.
mm,
And I think that is a big part of that is listening and being curious.
mm. That's so true. And on that, we can thank our lovely listeners for giving us the gift of listening to us today. And if you'd like to hear more from Meredith or I or anybody on the Plum Leadership Group, please feel free to follow us on Instagram or LinkedIn or drop us a line. Check out our website. We're always excited to talk to people about everything leadership. I want to thank my very special guest, Meredith. Thanks for being here and talking to us about, again, a topic that is relatable to everyone,
Mhm.
confidence. So
Yeah,
thank you for being
thank
here,
you.
and I'll see you
Good.
again soon.
All right, sounds good. Bye, Lindsay.
Thanks, everyone. If you've ever found yourself thinking, how do we actually get better as an organization? Here's a simple place to look: your managers. Managers have an outsized impact on performance, culture, and whether people stay or leave. But most managers are promoted because they're good at their job, not because anyone taught them how to manage people. That's exactly why we created Manager Essentials. Manager Essentials is a 100% online program designed to support new and emerging managers with real training and one-on-one coaching. It helps strong performers step into people management with more capability and less guesswork. If you're interested in developing managers who can handle the day-to-day realities of leading people, you can learn more at plumleadershipgroup.com. Thanks for tuning in to Grown to Lead, a podcast by the Plum Leadership Group. You can find even more insight and conversation like this one on LinkedIn from the Plum Leadership Group or on Instagram at Plum Leadership. Hear new episodes when they're available by following Grown to Lead wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for tuning in, and remember, you are a masterpiece and a work of art at the same time.